Hello all, and welcome to tonight's sake review, or as perhaps more correctly it should be called, the Nihonshu review. Sake is kind of a term that's used in the West for a type of alcohol that is called Nihonshu in Japan, which translates to Japanese alcohol. Consider because it was the original alcohol. And of course, sake being, of course, many people consider it in the West as rice wine, but is actually brewed closer to beer in that it involves a grain that is malted, but not malted in the sense of how beer is malted. It is malted using a type of special fungus to release the sugars in the rice, and then fermented and brewed and fermented as per, you'd expect. So, this was a gift from a friend in Canada, and I am really quite excited to be trying this. To be honest, I've never actually heard of this, or if I did, I can't remember. There was a time when I did a lot of research into sake, but that was well over 10 years ago, and I haven't done much drinking in that area since I left Japan, really. And this particular sake is a Junmai Daiginjo, which is the highest grade of sake. And it is called Dassai 23. And Dassai translates to Otter Festival. And 23 refers to the percentage that the rice has been polished to. So sake rice is much larger grained than the rice that you see, in food. It's a special type of rice used just for brewing. And the higher the level of polishing, the higher grade the sake is. And this particular sake has been polished to only 23% of the grain remains, which is exceptional even for the Junmai Daiginjo grade. This is brewed by a brewery in Japan called Asahi Shuzo. No relation to Asahi Brewing, the beer company. And it is based out of Yamaguchi Prefecture, which is in the Chugoku region of Japan, towards the south. It's actually an area that many of the Japanese immigrants to Hawaii came from. This brewery's been around for 200 years, and it was kind of a commonplace brewery until, the post-war period when it decided to really focus on high-end sakes and sakes meant to appeal to the palates of Western drinkers. And to that extent, in 2014, this sake was one of the ones that was offered to then President Obama when he visited Japan. So it's kind of historically significant in that respect. And it is one that is usually, this brewery is one of the ones that's usually on the top listings of Japanese sake breweries in Japan. Surprisingly, it's somewhat affordable for a Daiginjo. I've seen the market price posted for like $74 for the full size 720 milliounce. It's usually marked down a bit to around $50 or so. Something like this, probably, I'd say around the area of $20. I didn't buy it, so I don't know, but still very affordable for a Junmai Daiginjo. And without much further ado, let's get to sampling this, shall we? Now, doing the research on this was interesting. The tasting notes were that this pairs very well with Shellfish, and it tends to be on the sweeter, richer side, so I have some honey walnut shrimp for dinner. I haven't eaten it yet because I know that would make my nose run like a faucet, and I don't want to have that happen while I'm doing a review, so I'm going to be reviewing before I eat. And yes. Okay. Huh, interesting. I've never seen this style of opening before. It's kind of like a peel opening rather than twist open. I'm used to sake bottles being Stelvin capped. Okay. Oh boy, that could really cause a cut. That's thick foil. Okay, come on. What's this? Ah, it's an internal screw. Interesting. Where is it? Oh, no. Weird. Plastic cork. I've never seen anything like this before. And already, big aroma. It is diffusing the area right now from where I'm sitting. Pouring it into a wine glass, as is suggested by the maker. As with sakes, generally speaking, the vast majority of sakes will be clear to slightly yellow. This one is almost water clear. With some legging, but then sake really isn't known for, checking the legs. I just want to go and see it. Oh my. Honeydew melon. Soft floral notes. Underlying nuttiness. Very subtle. Almost like a mineral water edge to it as well. That mineral edge to it. Again, that's very subtle. It's not like it's carbonated or sharp. It's just sort of like got like a mineral water smell to it. Underneath the big florals and sort of honeydew melon. Mildly closed up. I think I might have had it a little bit too chilled. This came straight from my refrigerator. Absolutely lovely smell. Very soft. That is a tactile feeling on the nose here. Soft, pillowy. Soft pillowiness. If I can go and do almost a synesthetic kind of description of like how the smell feels. Let's get it onto the palate now, shall we? By the way, this is 16% alcohol, so 16% ABV. A long floral top note in the long finish, well on the tongue, an umami note in the long finish. Up front, the taste is very light in the front, very, very light, and then it starts to emerge slowly into the mids. There's a fruitiness there in the mid palate that is very strong and slowly declines into the finish, but it is not as defined as a sort of honeydew, cantaloupe, melon in the nose. It's just a more indescribable soft fruitiness there. Very estery. What is striking to me about this is that it has very little of some of the more difficult aspects of sake that a lot of newbies find hard to take. And that sort of difficulty usually shows up in the finish of most sakes. This one here is very, very low, and I can see why this is often recommended as an introductory sake for new sake drinkers. Because it's definitely giving a very stereotypical sake taste notes, Junmai Daiginjo taste notes, I should say, without having the more... And it is very difficult to describe because it's not really a tasting note that you can go and put your finger on unless you drink sake, and you kind of know exactly what I mean if you drink sake. Cheaply made sakes are redolent of that flavor, which is why it's usually heated so that it kind of goes away. And it's in all sakes, including this one, but in this one, it is just so minimal, so reduced that it doesn't come across as a stumbling block for people who are unaccustomed to that particular taste note. That said, this is definitely on the sweeter side of the sake tasting scale. And it's also a bit on the... well, no, probably not. Now that I think about it, now that I'm going back over the sakes that I've had in my head, and it's been a very long time, it's about average for thickness and mouthfeel. More elusive taste notes are kind of emerging in the finish. This is a nice, deeply complex sake. I can see, like, some really hardcore, like, native Japanese sake drinkers, Nihonshu drinkers. They might find this a bit too clean for their liking. I've noticed that like sake drinkers, you know, the ones Japanese sake drinkers, native Japanese sake drinkers, they tend to like a little bit of edge to their even, you know, their high quality sakes. I would think that too Western might be an epithet that might be used for this one. That said, it's not Western in that, you know, the taste notes are something that is been westernized. This is very much a sake, you know, sake tasting sake. But this would definitely be one that I would use as an introduction to sake for non-sake drinkers. 100%. So, I am really looking forward to having some food with this. This seems like something that was just made to have some food with, and I am going to go and have some food with it. It's going to be absolutely amazing. I know that already. And I kind of want to do that before this starts getting a little bit too warm. I think that when this one gets a little bit too warm, it starts getting a cloying note, perhaps, just from my experience. So I want to get this, you know, with some food right now for that ultimate experience. Because as you know, many alcohols are just, you know, absolutely elevated by food matching. Wine and sake, I believe, are two ones that really, really, you know, you need food to truly appreciate. And now I am going to go and get some food. So, right now, I would like to go and say thank you to Erin from Etobicoke, Canada. I hope I said Etobicoke correctly. Etobicoke? 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 I don't know. I'd like to say thank you for this wonderful birthday gift. And if you can get your hands on this yourself, Erin, I think you would actually deeply enjoy this one. And for all you others out there who watch this, I think even if you don't enjoy sake, this is one that should be fairly enjoyable nonetheless. Just for the reasons I've given already. And that, folks, is your sake review for this evening. Kampai!